Hello, Life Point Church. Welcome back for part 5 in our lesson, God of Your Fathers. We've been talking this week about Moses, and yesterday we left off kind of with Moses reminding God that it wasn't about him, and for Moses to put his focus on God, that it wasn't so much about Moses' abilities, his talents, or his lack thereof, but it was about what God had planned and what God was able to do through him. And we see as we continue in Exodus that God told Moses who he was. In answer to Moses' question about his name, God replied in Exodus 3:14, "I am that I am." And he said, "Thus shalt thou say unto the children of Israel, I am hath sent me unto you." That revelation of I am is so simple yet so profound. First, it speaks to an eternal state of existence. God has always been, he is always here, and he always will be. It also speaks to his sufficiency. Whatever we could need, healing, peace, victory, provision, salvation, is what he is. Moses could march back into Egypt with confidence, knowing God was everything that he could possibly need. Not only did God tell Moses who he was, but he also showed Moses his power. In response to Moses' fear that people would not believe him, God gave Moses a series of demonstrations in his power. Moses' staff became a serpent. Moses got leprosy and then was healed. And Moses could turn water into blood. When we go out on a mission that God sends us on, we should not fear people's rejection. We should have confidence that God will confirm his word with miracles, signs, and wonders. You know, even after all of God's assurances and his demonstrations of power, Moses still said in Exodus 4:13, "O my Lord, please send by the hand of whomever else you may send." Even after all of this, all the things that God just showed him, Moses said, "God, can you please just still use somebody else? God, I know that you just turned my rod into a serpent and back into a rod again. I know you gave me leprosy and then healed me again. I know you did this and then fixed it immediately, but can you please send someone else instead?" I don't know. We don't know maybe how we would react in that situation unless you've been in that situation before. I'm not sure. But to me, I would think at least that I would be excited to see what else God was going to do. I mean, if God was able and willing to do this just to show me that he was going to be with me, then surely there were going to be some pretty amazing things coming along the way. And I say that, but then I look back through my own mind and I'll think about even things recently where God has shown himself and then it's still kind of like, I don't know, what is God going to do here? I don't know if is this how God is going to answer, or what is God going to, God, I'm not sure if I'm able to do that, or I'm not sure, is this really where I should put my faith, or what should I be doing here? Even after seeing things happen in my own life recently and just seeing the miracles that God can do, we're still human beings, I guess, and we still kind of carry that doubt, unfortunately, in our minds, and we have to consciously push it out and say, no, I'm not going to dwell on that. I'm going to put my faith in the I am, the one that has always been, always is, and always will be, and the one that is everything that I need him to be. And he will take care of it. So Moses was still looking around for someone else to fulfill his mission. And we often do the same thing. Finally, we can actually see that God became a little bit angry with Moses. But God still did not give up on Moses. God got frustrated with Moses. But he didn't say, you know what, fine. I'm going to go find somebody else then. You don't want to do this, then fine. But God instead still continued to use Moses. God insisted that Moses go back to Egypt, but he chose Aaron to be Moses' mouthpiece and to bear the rod of God to do signs. Would Moses ever be fully used in the way God first intended him to be? Or had his imperfections led to Aaron really kind of replacing him in much of what God intended? Aaron did the signs that God gave them, both before Israel and before Pharaoh. Aaron threw down the rod and it became a serpent, devouring all the magicians' serpents. Aaron smote the Nile River and became blood. Aaron smote the earth and it became lice. But then there came a shift. Suddenly we see Moses holding the rod of God. He stretched it out toward heaven, and thunder, lightning, and hail responded. He stretched it over the land, and the east wind brought locust swarms across the land. Finally, with the Red Sea ahead and the thundering hooves of Pharaoh's chariots closing in on them from behind, Moses put the rod out over the waves and brought a rushing wind so powerful it drove back the sea into a foaming wall on either side, leaving a path of dry land for God's people to march across to freedom. Moses, a murderous fugitive and a stuttering shepherd, led the miraculous exodus of Israel. No one could have done this except the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the God who empowers imperfect people. Despite all of his reluctance and excuses, Moses ultimately was willing to obey God's calling, and that willingness was all God needed. As we wrap up this lesson, I hope that you will think about this and decide for yourself, are we willing to be what God has called us to? Are we willing to be willing in the hands of God, that he can use us the way that he wants to? I hope that you all have enjoyed this lesson throughout this week and have been reminded that God uses imperfect people. And we are all imperfect. We all have fears, we all have failures, we all have insecurities. But I know a God that looks past that and still wants to do something great with our lives. I'm excited to see you all again on Sunday. I hope that you have a great weekend, and we'll see you again soon. God bless.